Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. I thought today that I would just do a little show and tell of my books by the great poet Dante. Whoops, wrong book. I was hunting for a particular volume after watching Joshua Kribo do a shelf tour in which he displayed some Dante. And I thought I had an Alan Mandelbaum translation of one of the volumes. It may well be something else. I think he may have done a Virgil. Whatever it is, I can't find it. And it's possible I have even gotten rid of it. Actually, that's probably more than possible. And so I just thought I would show, I have a cat back there, so that's why I'm afraid the camera is going to be tipped over. Do I have my Sinclair translation? Throughout my adult life, the Sinclair translation has been my go-to. So you have Inferno. At one time, I saw at the charity bookshop, I believe, a pristine copy of this. It may have been somewhere else, but it was pretty cheap, I think, and I just decided not to get it, even though my copy has had to be reinforced from its overuse. The other two volumes, of course, did not need that. So I have Purgatorio and I have Paradiso. And the advantage to the Sinclair volumes is that they are bilingual. So you have Dante's text opposite a prose translation. And of course, anytime I am reading big poetry, I would much rather have a prose translation than something that attempts to put it into verse. Now that said, I have this one volume Penguin, which is translated by Mark Musa, and I think his translations are pretty good. This contains everything. Well, not everything, but it contains the Divine Comedy. It contains the Vita Nova. I think that's at the end. The Vita Nova, and it's a great portable text to hold on to for the essential Dante. Some people might say his translation is good, but you lack the Italian. If you've had some Italian, as I did in high school and actually even in college a little bit, then you most probably want something where you have the Italian along with it. But I thought I would also just show some of the other books that I have. So here's my go-to copy of the Vita Nuova, also by Mark Musa. And I think as Joshua was saying, I think the notes here are different to what notes you will find here. And this has always been my go-to choice. I bought it at the old Rizzoli bookstore in Water Tower Place. And when I took it up to the cashier, she said to me, "Oh, that is such a beautiful book." So that's a memory that has attached itself to that book. And this one I just picked up somewhere along the line. Yeah, $2 in the clearance section. And I haven't really spent that much time with it to see what I think about it. It was just sort of an impulse buy. Now, when I started with Dante, it was through the Dorothy Sayers translation. So you had hell, you had paradise. Whoops, that's wrong order. You had purgatory, and then you had paradise. I don't know why this is done like a picture frame, and this is done like a picture frame, and then this is just all the way across. But that's just a design question. So I read this when I was really rather quite young, and they say that poetry is what is lost in the translation, and there is some truth to that adage, but when it comes to a great big epic work like Dante's Commedia, it is not true. I was able to pick up enough of Dante through the translation by Dorothy Sayers. This was bought for me by my sister as a birthday present or a Christmas present, something like that. It was known in my family that I was becoming interested in poetry, and I'm sure that my sister bought this not really knowing what it was about, and it turned out to have a major impact on me. And here I have a nice little bookmark. And the really, really marvelous thing about the Dorothy Sayers editions at Penguin, which I think they keep in print, is all of her commentaries and her introductory matter. It's just really great. I think there's even, I mean, it's pretty standard that that whatever edition you get will give you some kind of a map of hell and purgatory and all of that. But her notes are really excellent. She was so there you can see something. There really isn't a need to try to visualize the terrain in any sort of a concrete form, but people, literalists of the imagination, may prefer to do that. And so here you get something. But it's all very good. I believe that Dorothy Sayers did have a book of essays about Dante, and I've never come across it. I've never read it. It would, I'm sure, be worth reading. Now, I think the final volume is partly translated by Barbara Reynolds. Yeah, so I forget what it is. The last, you can see there, the last, I'm not sure what it is, 13 or something cantos. Dorothy Sayers had died, I think, and so her friend Barbara Reynolds took it up, and the translation does not suffer. And I think Barbara Reynolds also did the original Penguin version of the Vita Nuova. And there's a story how when Dante's great poem was originally found or whatever, it was missing those exact same chapters, and then they were found behind a hidden panel or something like that. I was going to say at his house in Florence, but of course he wouldn't have been in Florence. He would have been in Ravenna at that time, and that house in Florence that you can go see is not really his house. So I thought that I would show you these, and Dorothy Sayers, what marks her off from other translators is that she tries to keep the terza rima intact. And in one place, it's kind of weird. There's a little bit where Dante slips into the what was it? The Provençal dialect, whatever that other dialect was of those poets that influenced him so much, and she translates it into like Scots or something like that. I mean, it's all kind of weird, but it's a good effort. So let's see how she starts it. For better waters, heading with the wind, my ship of genius now shakes out her sail and leaves that ocean of despair behind. I mean, you're not going to see anything, anything hardly of the original in that. Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita mi ritrovai per una selva oscura, che la diritta via era smarrita. Oh, well, of course, because I'm reading Purgatory and not Hell. So let's see what she says for Hell. Oh well, make myself appear the idiot in front of all of my 28 viewers, but that's okay. I appreciate your presence here. So what does she have? Okay, this is more like it. Midway, this way of life we're bound upon, I woke to find myself in a dark wood, where the right road was wholly lost and gone. So that is closer. At the time as this, there was a John Ciardi translation that was much in vogue, and I never could stand that. And I think the Dorothy Sayers is pretty good. But as I say, for my money, I go with this. Now, I think there was a also there was a multi-volume set, actually 6 volumes published by Princeton. The translation itself had, I think it was the Singleton, I think, translation. That has just been reprinted without the corresponding Italian and without all of the notes. Over the years, I always wished I could lay my hands on it to buy those 6 volumes. It would be the text with translation, and then the notes would be in a separate volume. You would come across one or another at the bookstore, always for an exorbitant price. And even now, when I look them up, they're way beyond my price range for something that I don't need. So it's a missed opportunity. I always wished I could have had those. And of course, the new edition of the translation itself doesn't serve me any purpose either, when it really is the Italian that I would go back to. So that said, I was fortunate in time to come across other works by Dante, and so this is an excellent edition. I don't know what other kinds of books you can find that contain this material, but it has the important De Vulgari Eloquentia, and it has the letter to Can Grande, and I don't know if it has the on monarchy. I think I have on monarchy somewhere, if it's not this, but I don't know where that would be. On eloquence, the letter of, yeah, it's not in here, so I have no idea where I would have that, but I have it, or I have had it at some point. I've never read this biography. I have no idea if it's good or bad. It looks pretty decent. I'm waiting to hear it mentioned on Steve Donahue's channel to hear if he thinks it's worthwhile reading. But so far, I have not. And I have essays on Dante by Mark Musa, which I found cheaply at half-price books. And I've read it, but, oh, look at this. I should give this another look. Maybe I haven't read it. So he's editing essays by these different folks, not excluding Mr. Musa, so to speak. But there is something by Charles Singleton. I really should look at this. I may well not have read it. There's something about Dante's letter to Can Grande. I mean, it's important stuff. And now I seem to have misplaced the rime. let me get it. Pardon me. This is an edition, a collection of poems which was not available at the time when I was reading poetry. Let's see when it came out. Yeah, so first published in 2009. I first heard about this on Aaron Facer's channel, and I have not read it all the way through. I've dipped in here and there for the occasional sonnet, but it's not a priority for me. And as far as his poetry itself, essentially what you need are the Vita Nuova and the comedy, the Commedia. And the only other thing I should show you is the Convivio. And this, actually, I found a nice copy of it at the Chicago Public Library at the time I was working as a photocopy clerk for a downtown law firm. And so I copied out the whole book. Which I think this is the only occasion when I have ever done that. Of course, now you could probably just find something like this online. And it's an incomplete work. You can see there are four parts, and it was done sort of along the lines of the Vita Nuova in that there is prose and then poetry, or poetry and then prose. I think the poetry comes first, and then he explains it. Yeah, so it starts with the it starts with the poetry, and it's interesting. At the time that I read it, I had no idea who Tully was. He makes a lot of mention to Tully. There is even a footnote to tell you that Tully is Cicero, or as people now are telling me, Cicero. Even if I had checked the footnote, and I may well have done, I would have had no clue about that author. It was a later date that I became aware of the great Roman orator. But this book is not really strictly necessary because it's an incomplete work. Dante set out a task for himself, and it wasn't working, and so he abandoned it. If you happen to be a writer, that's something that will happen to you occasionally. You set out, and it just doesn't work right, and you have to let it go. So I will leave my show and tell off there. I will put a link to Joshua Kribo's video in the description box. And as a last item, I will show you my book of sonnets by Dante's contemporary. He is almost the polar opposite of Dante. I think he has a couple of poems about Dante in here, and I wonder if I could find them. Well, I don't see anything here. This is also a very nice bilingual edition. This is One World Classics, and I believe this is too. Oh, it's Alma Classics, and Alma Classics and One World Classics seem to be the same company, one in Britain and one in the US, or something like that. Let me read you just the one here. Now is not mine a sorry plight, I say, because I've lost the power to refrain from loving one whose hatred will not deign to see me when I pass upon my way. She brings me such great torment night and day that many a time I even sweat with pain. My heart is set on fire, and all in vain. Hell can't be worse, I fancy, come what may. In truth, it might be said that I'm ill-fated. Surely she comes of an accursed breed, whose daughters all are pitiless and cunning. Alas, by now I'm so infatuated, I think that love will change her, for indeed he's surely strong enough to do it running. Let's see if I can do the Italian. Ha! My Italian is so rusty here. Or non è gran pistolenza la mia, che non mi posso partir d'amare, quella che modia e niente degnare, vuol pur vedere onde passo la via. E dammi tanta pena, notte e dia, che dell'angoscia mi fa si sudare, che marde l'anima e niente non pare. Certo non credo ch'altro inferno sia. Assa potrebbe uom dirm a nulla giova, che le di tale siata nata intendo, che tutte son di così mala prova. Ma per chi la trasamo, pur attendo, ch'amor alcuna cosa la rimova, che si posente che el può far correndo. Kind of butchered it, and he's not a poet of the canon who is indispensable, I suppose, but he is a striking contrast to the great Dante. So thank you very much for stopping by my channel.